It's a lovely evening. We will now call the November 2019 District 4 Advisory Board meeting to order. And do we have a quorum? 7, 2, 3, 6. Yes, ma'am. Super. Can everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, everybody have a chance to look at the agenda for this evening? And if so, can I get a motion and a second for approval? I make a motion to approve. Kit?
I'll second it.
Second down here. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And do we have minutes from October?
I didn't bring them, but I sent them.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. So did, if everybody had a chance to see the October minutes, and we need a motion and a second for approval for the October minutes.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion down here.
I'll second.
Second from Kit. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Super. Okay, everyone making presentations tonight, as well as any guests signed in the back, we really appreciate it, so we know who you are, so we can send you lovely gifts and prizes. No, okay, no, you don't want to run back, that's right. Okay, and next we will hear staff reports from fire. Guys,
Good evening.
come right down. Do you
Matt
want to-
Schulte with the Wichita Fire Department, Lieutenant at Station 12 right over here. Got a few things going on. This month we'll be helping Salvation Army fill our booth. You'll see the fire trucks on the street corners the next 3 Saturdays. So if you wonder why the fire trucks are at the Dillons, the Walmarts and all that, we help the Salvation Army generate a lot of their funds every year. So we do the bell ringing, but we do it fill the booth. So that'll explain why we're at all the corners the next 3 Saturdays. Everybody sets their clocks back. We always recommend that you change your batteries in your smoke alarms for your safety. Those batteries do go bad, even though it's even hardwired. There's a battery backup in case the power goes out, so we need to change the batteries in all of your stuff. It is getting to be the holidays, so we always like to talk about extension cords and candles. Please blow out your candles when you leave. If you're using hot plates for the scented candles, please just turn them off. And if you can unplug your extension cords at night, that would be really great. Extension cords are just a temporary wire. It isn't meant to be used 24/7. So please give them a break and unplug them and let them cool off, okay? Report for alarms. For the month of October, we had 20 fire alarms, 50 service calls, 464 medical calls for 534 incidents. We had 4 fires in District 4. We had an apartment fire at 5480 South Gold, caused $130,000 worth of damage. Started on the exterior on the deck, got into the living space, destroyed a bunch of personal property also. The other one was 115 North Colorado. It was a garage. A guy was working and a kerosene heater malfunctioned and caught it on fire, caused $17,000 of damage. 7355 West Newell was a 4-plex apartment building. Misuse of electrical caused it to catch fire in the living room extension cord. So that caused $55,000 worth of damage. And then 1106 South Fern, we had a guy working on his vehicle and actually caught the fuel on fire and burned up his car, which caused $4,500 worth of damage. And that's the report I have for the fire department. Any questions?
Questions from the board? Questions from the public?
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Next one up. Do we have anybody from? Anyone from fire, or are we up for WD? Okay.
Good evening. This is Officer Richo, Patrol South, beat coordinator for 29 and 299 beats. I'll give you the stats for both south and west side of the district. For robberies, south side had 3, west side had 5. This is for the past month. Let's see on those. One person, which was a suspect on one of those robbery cases, which was down south. Commercial burglaries, 6 down south, 7 out west. And out of all those cases, for the south side, only one of them had a suspect. Residential burglaries, South side had 11, west side had 14. For the south side, we had one case with a suspect, and we made one arrest on one of those residential burglaries. Auto thefts, 17 for south side, 24 for west side. For south side, we had 2 suspects, nobody arrested on those. In regards to the auto thefts and, largely from autos, we're starting to see an increase on those. We do have a couple of people that we're looking into as possible suspects on those. And here, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we'll start doing special assignment to address those issues. What we're seeing on those auto thefts is some of the, Ford F-150s, 250 trucks are getting stolen, and then the converters are getting cut out. From our understanding, they're getting better prices for the parts than they are just scrapping the whole vehicle. So, we're gonna start addressing that issue here pretty soon. Larceny to autos, south side there was 34, 1 arrest, no suspects, and west side had 81 larceny to autos. So, and I'm still working with Winter Ridge Apartments in regards to, their activities going on over there. Their calls for service ag dwindled down here in the past couple of weeks in regards to activity going on over there. The manager who's taken over there, she's taken a big interest in trying to help citizens out over there also. One of the programs that we're looking into is, talking with renters that are interested in buying houses and letting them know what process they need to go through to, reach that goal of buying their own house or one of the rental properties. So, any other questions on this? No?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? You guys are just here, you're just as posse?
Well, this is my first District 4 advisory meeting, so I'm the lieutenant for Patrol South Community Policing. I'm also in charge of the homeless outreach team and the Broadway corridor team. So I just wanted to come down and show my face so that you know where I'm at. I've talked to most of the councilmen and the advisors, and most of it's just on current projects that are going on. So just a few small updates. The mayor and one of the homeless outreach officers, Nathan Schwedall, just got back from Washington DC, where they gave an update on our homeless outreach team and the projects and the outreach that's going on here locally. We're kind of setting the bar across the nation, and they got hit with a lot of questions on how we're making this work within the community. Nathan wrote up this big long report, and I haven't had a chance to really read through it today since he sent it back. But I did get to leaf through a lot of the pictures that him and the mayor had, and also took with the senator. So that's going on with the homeless. Broadway corridor, we're still doing very well with the statistical performance. Making arrests on Broadway are still up. We also did the bike light project over the weekend. I don't know if anybody saw the media releases on that, but they basically gave out a bunch of free bike lights for anybody that came down to the event. You can also put out to family members. If you still have people who want bike lights, get a hold of us and we'll hook you up with either a bicycle exchange or some leftover product from our event. Lastly, with community policing, we've been very active dealing with your regular citizen complaints. Parking complaints are usually what they spend a lot of their time on. And a lot of it's just misunderstandings of the current ordinances and how they're implemented. The officers do a good job of trying to explain that to the complainants as it comes in. But when they're not tied up with those specific things on their beat, we also have hotspot areas, and one being the Old Town area because it is an entertainment district. And we want to showcase that area. We have to, in order to showcase it, we're gonna have to provide a lot of services down there to keep it safe. So with the cold months coming up here in the holiday season, you're gonna see car break-ins, you're gonna see auto thefts. And as Officer Recio had mentioned, with the auto thefts, we're not seeing an uptick in vehicles being stolen because of their value or scrap or joyride. What we're seeing is they're being stolen, taken to another location, and then they are stripped of certain, just certain body parts. And what we're seeing obviously is the catalytic converters on a lot of them, batteries, and there was another highly pawnable lot of them, but they're able to move pretty quickly. So that's what we're seeing is taking off these cars. Maybe not because the value's there for the scrap, but it's easier to pawn apart than it is to pawn the vehicle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing up the issue with Officer Sweetall and the mayor. I was getting quite a few texts from what they were doing out there, and the word feedback I was getting is, you know, the mayor was a rock star out there, and I guess really a lot of other cities and a lot of legislators and stuff are really following what they were doing. So appreciate what you guys are doing, and it's exciting seeing other cities are benchmarking what we started here. So good work.
Thanks, guys. Okay. And let's see. I understand you are pinch hitting for Robert Bell this evening,
Yeah.
so we will get this evening's library report from our rock star right today.
Alfred's circulation count for October was 11,759 items. Alfred's gate count for October was 6,587 visits. There are 4 events coming up. There are 4 points here. November is Kansas Reads to Preschoolers Month. This is a statewide initiative with the goal of recruiting young readers and promoting library usage. This year, thousands of preschoolers in Wichita will read I Like Myself by Karen Beaumont. And you can visit their website, wichitalibrary.org/events for upcoming programs related to this book. The second thing is to join us for Learn About Medicare Online. That is Friday, November 8th from 10:30 to noon. It's at the Advanced Learning Library. This hands-on workshop will show you what you're able to do on the Medicare website, which is mymedicare.gov. Experts from the Central Plains Area Agency on Aging will walk you through the steps for enrolling, making changes, and other features. You can go to the library site to register or call 261-8511. Are you looking for a job? Not sure who's hiring? Attend our job fair on Thursday, November 14th from 2 to 4 at the Alfred Branch Library. Job seekers will have an opportunity to meet with 11 to 13 prospective employers. Don't forget your resume and remember to dress for success. Co-sponsored by the Workforce Alliance of South Central Kansas. And lastly, the Wichita Public Library locations will be closed Monday, November 11th in recognition of Veterans Day. And there will also be, all locations will also be closed 5 p.m. Wednesday, November 27th, and closed all day Thursday, November 28th, and Friday, November 29th.
Okay, we will now move on to the public agenda. And, let's see, I guess we have no scheduled items on the public agenda, so off agenda items, any individual here did not request to speak on the public agenda prior to the meeting may speak at this time, unless it's about one of the cases being presented tonight, because we obviously have a time slot for those, so is there anybody that would like to speak on the agenda item? Okay. So on to new business, we have Mark Stanberry, Manager with Housing Services, will be presenting our next item.
Morning. Good evening, Vice Mayor and members of the board. Mark Stanberry for the Housing Community Services Department. We have 2 items for you this evening. One's a brief informational presentation about our entitlement grant program, and then also a second item where we'll be seeking a volunteer nominee for the Grants Review Committee. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. We have a PowerPoint that we've prepared for you here that you can also take with you. I'll just be speaking from that. The city's entitlement program includes our Community Development Block Grant Program and the Home Program, and also the Emergency Solutions Grant Program, and I'll get into a little more information about each of those here in just a moment. But annually, the city receives these funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. They're utilized to create strong, sustainable communities and affordable housing as well. The funded activities through these programs align with the city's goal of creating a livable and and sustainable community. The three components, as I mentioned, include the Community Development Block Grant Program, or CDBG. We'll get you all up to date on some acronyms here tonight as well. But CDBG program is used for a wide range of community development. It's a very flexible program. We do many things with it, and we'll talk to you a little bit about that as we delve into the presentation. Our grant last year was $2.8 million. Over the last few years, the CDBG grant has declined. At one point, it was up to as much as $5 million. Several years ago, we're down to about 2.8 now. It's a formula grant. It has to do with the age of our housing and the demographic statistics from the census as well. We also have the Home Investment Partnerships Program. This is all about affordable housing, creating affordable housing units or rehabilitating housing units. Our grant for 2019-2020, which is our current program year, was about $1.4 million. Saw a little increase in the home program the last couple of years. We also have the Emergency Solutions Grant Program. It used to be known as the Emergency Shelter Grant Program, now Emergency Solutions Grant, and it's for a variety of homeless activities ranging from shelters to also homeless prevention. Our planning process includes a 5-year consolidated plan, which we just updated last year. That plan identifies community needs, includes a market analysis for housing as well, and identifies spending priorities dependent on those needs through the CDBG Home and ESG programs. We also have to prepare a program year action plan. We're in that process right now. And it allocates estimated funding to various activities to address those identified community needs. Our second program year action plan is what we're working on currently. It will be for the 2020-2021 program year. That'll begin July the 1st. You may wonder why we're out here so early in November if it doesn't begin until July, but there's a lot of work to be done before we get to that point. As far as turning in our plan to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Briefly on our timeline, November through February, we gather public input. We're always doing that. We do it primarily for the consolidated plan, but we're always updating that, trying to identify if there's any additional community needs that have arisen since development of our consolidated plan. In December and January, we go to the council to appoint the grants review committee, and we issue requests for proposals for a couple of different activities through the CDBG program, being domestic violence shelter services and also youth recreation and enrichment programs as well. Through the home program, it's applications for community housing development organization set-aside activities and for emergency solutions grant for homeless services activities as well. In February, we convened the grant review committee to review the proposals and to also make funding recommendations for the city council. And we develop our preliminary spending plan. In March, the city council typically authorizes a 30-day comment period for our annual action plan. The plan goes out for public comment for a period of 30 days. We make it available online to the public libraries and also our neighborhood centers as well. When we get to May, the City Council approves the final spending plans and the allocations of funding and authorizes submission of the action plan to HUD. It is due May the 15th and the program year again begins July the 1st. Briefly on our entitlement programs, the CDBG program, activities must meet a national objective, and there are 3. It includes benefit to low to moderate income persons, prevention of slum or blight, or addressing urgent community needs. We don't see that third one too often. That has to do with disaster declarations and reallocating funds to meet needs arising from natural disasters. And we've been fortunate in that respect, but we haven't seen that here for quite some time. CDBG activities must be eligible. It's kind of like a two-sided coin. You have to determine first if it's meets a national objective, and then also if it's an eligible spending activity. And not less than 70% of CDBG funding must benefit low to moderate income persons. Just additional information on the CDBG program. We have a public service cap that we may not exceed. It's $1,163,000. We have a grandfathered cap actually, because under current rules it's only 15%. But due to our grant being the size that it was in previous years, we were grandfathered with that cap. Funds are utilized typically under a memorandum of understanding with other city departments when they're utilized internally, or through funding agreements with outside entities that we call subrecipients. And we cannot allocate funds to a provider for any kind of ineligible purpose. CDBG activities in the past have included infrastructure improvements. I believe one that occurred in District 4 was Dora and Everett. There was a street paving project that occurred there somewhere in the neighborhood of about $400,000, I believe it was. We've done park improvements, and also this past year we implemented a new activity, a facade improvement program for businesses that serve low-income neighborhoods. It's a pilot program. We're looking to get that off the ground very soon. We have our home repair program. That's something I have immediate responsibility for. We do things like assist low-income owner-occupant homeowners with immediate need types of repairs, furnaces, sewer lines, and plumbing needs, electrical needs. We served 179 owner-occupant homeowners last year through the program. We also provide the Metropolitan Area Building and Construction Department with funding for demolition and clearance activities through their code enforcement division. This is for when the city council condemns a housing unit or another structure. We can provide those funds to clear the site and eliminate the blight that is occurring there. Also, we have a Housing First project coordinator that we provide funding on at the funding for at the staff level. It was mentioned earlier about the homeless outreach team. The person in this position does work very closely with the homeless outreach team, and it's blended in with funding that we receive directly from the city general fund, and also from Sedgwick County for rent assistance and utilities assistance for chronically homeless individuals. And a lot of those referrals do come from the from the homeless outreach team. We also fund domestic violence shelter services. In the past, typically we've funded 3 Catholic Charities and Stepstone, and also the Wichita Family Crisis Center. Last year, 813 persons were served in the shelters with the funding that we provided. Also, youth crime prevention and enrichment. We funded YMCA, Mental Health Association, and Big Brothers, Big Sisters for activities to assist youth. And last year we served about almost 4,000 middle school aged kids. Training and employment, that's our the Way to Work program that serves children of residents of the Wichita Housing Authority. We served 100 youth through that program last year. The home program, we provide down payment and closing cost assistance loans for low-income first-time home buyers. Last year we assisted 22 home buyers in purchasing homes. We also provide development subsidy assistance for for-profit and nonprofit developers. We subsidized the development of 18 infill single-family units during the past program year through our community housing development organization, CHODOs, and also, as I mentioned, other nonprofit developers or for-profit developers. We also provide some operating support for the CHODOs, and it also covers our program administration at the staff level. Just briefly on the CHODO set aside, 15% of our home grant has to be allocated to community housing development organizations. A couple of those organizations are Mennonite Housing and Power CD station in the city that we provide funding for. And it must be for development of affordable housing. They must do that with funds. They can't provide real assistance or anything like that. Also, just briefly on CHODOs, because this is a component of the funding that's reviewed by the Grants Review Committee, is applications received from CHODOs for housing development activities. They must be a 501c3 organization. They must have capacity to manage their financial affairs and also have capacity and experience in the activity that they're seeking to undertake. They must have experience serving the community, and there also must be community representation on their board. 1/3 of their board composition must be low to moderate income citizens. Also, there cannot be any for-profit or public control, and their main purpose of existence is outlined in their articles of incorporation is the development of affordable housing. Moving on to our emergency solutions grant, activities there include homeless assistance. We provide funding for various shelter activities through, again, Catholic Charities receives some of that funding, and also Wichita Family Crisis Center for Domestic Violence Shelter Services. We also provide funding for United Methodist Open Door and Interfaith Ministries for Interfaith Inn as well. Also, we have a rapid rehousing activity to serve people who are literally homeless, that we can provide short-term rental assistance 2 to 3 months for moving into an apartment to get them into a housing situation if they're living in some place that's considered to be unfit for occupancy. Also, we have a reporting system that we provide some funding for United Way, our homeless management information system. United Way receives a little bit of funding for that each year. Our shelter services, as I mentioned some of the agencies that we fund there. They include shelter operations, essential services, and possibly even some rehabilitation if that is needed at the shelter. Also, homeless prevention activities. We provide funding to assist families and individuals who are in danger of becoming homeless, possibly through threat of eviction, typically. Lastly, we are here to ask you if you feel as though there might be some additional priorities that we should be addressing with our entitlement grant programs. One thing to keep in mind, if we increase funding for one activity, it has to be subtracted from another activity. So this evening, we're just looking for your input to see if you have any thoughts on how we're utilizing the entitlement grant program, and if you have any thoughts on maybe some activities we should take a look at funding.
Prioritization.
I have one question.
Certainly.
How do you, because I'm really not totally familiar with all of this, how do you prioritize the emergency housing? Is there criteria, families with small children? Or do you have a
Oh,
priority?
the emergency solutions grant
Yes,
aspect?
how do you
Certainly.
determine who's the priority in putting into an emergency housing?
Oh, like in the homeless prevention,
Yes,
or for example, rapid rehousing?
Yes.
Most of those individuals are referred through social service agencies. That has a lot to do with it, and we have a limited amount of funding available, so essentially it's first come, first served.
Okay.
And then, of course, they have to meet the program criteria that we talked a little bit about. For rapid rehousing, they have to be literally homeless, typically in a shelter. Lots of the providers that we work with are familiar with the program, make those referrals through a caseworker typically.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes?
On the block grant, the home repair program, is there a certain percentage that's capped at? I don't know if you said that.
As far as income limit?
No, the amount of funds that can go to that.
Oh, No, it's not capped. This past year, we've received $571,000 for projects that we're doing. We also have something that program has access to is funding for lead-based paint hazard remediation activities to actually abate lead hazards in residential housing units, so they will work on that as well. That grant is for projects about $1.4 million. So no limit on that. Yes, sir.
If somebody was interested in this, who would they contact?
That would depend on which aspect. I currently oversee the community investments area, which is all of the entitlement programs, but we also provide some funding through some other city departments. But it would be the Housing and Community Services Department would be the first contact.
Okay.
Mark, have any other districts taken advantage of the paving like I did here a few years back? You know, there's about 100 miles of unpaved streets, and a lot of that we just know will never get paved just because of the
Certainly.
areas that they're at. And I don't know, I was just curious, you know, Councilmember Johnson and I have talked a lot because
Mhm.
he has a lot in his district. I have a lot out here just because it's so hodgepodgey, and I don't know how that weighs in when you have mental health and homeless issues and
Mhm,
stuff
mhm.
versus a street getting paved. So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, certainly, and a lot of our funding priorities are driven. We're pretty much right at the cap for public services, so we almost start there and then see what, and also home repair. But generally, each year when we've had program income available, we've tried to allocate some funding for infrastructure improvement, sidewalks, and some paving activities. I think back in, it was 2015, I believe, we had a substantial amendment to reprogram a substantial amount of funds for some infrastructure improvements and bike paths and things of that nature. Most recently, District 1, we had a project where we paved, I believe it was 10th Street between Poplar and Green, if I'm not mistaken, over in the area where Habitat for Humanity is currently working their Rock the Block redevelopment project. Also, we provided some funding for District 1 for a New York Street repaving up near McAdams Park. So it just depends. We try to be consistent with the city's policy of requiring special assessments in connection with paving residential streets. A lot of times what we try to address is little areas where there's not enough houses there to support a petition that will cover the expense of that.
But we're really not putting special assessments on any habitat homes. are we?
No, we're not. No, that was just.
But that's a good lead to follow if we can kind of piggyback on that with
Mhm.
Habitat where they're working on the neighborhood.
Yeah, and then yes, we a lot of times we see where there might be. I mentioned that 10th Street project in the Habitat area. That was a street actually where it's not very long at all. There's not much distance there. There's like 4 houses on corners and so not much of a basis there for anyone to want to actually see that paved. So we were able to take care of that. It eliminated a lot of illegal dumping there and also involved the installation of a sidewalk to better serve the school that was nearby.
Any questions for Mark?
It's always how much money we have, it's always a challenge to try to address all the priorities, but that's something we always have our eye on is infrastructure. And we do have $100,000 set aside this year for that type of activity. Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we have our second item involving the Grants Review Committee. We're looking for a nominee to serve on the Grants Review Committee. Those meetings occur in February this year. The Grants Review Committee consists of 14 members. All of the district advisory boards are represented. We have We have a representative from Wichita State University, from USD 259, also from Wichita Independent Neighborhood, two representatives there, United Way, Sedgwick County, and then also a large and a small business appointee. Last year, the appointee was Jonathan McRoy. He's not here this evening, I don't think, but I believe, David, you served on it one year, did you?
Yes.
So essentially this evening, we're just looking for somebody who might be willing to serve on the Grants Review Committee. I have a schedule of the meetings, if, I believe Becky's provided that for you. Also a nomination form so we can collect your information, so we can get in touch with you and make sure you have all the information available to you for the meetings when that time comes around.
Is that just these 3 dates that are on the schedule?
That's correct. The first meeting is an orientation meeting. The second is a public hearing where all of the applicants for funding make presentations regarding their proposals, and then the third meeting is to develop the recommendations for the city council. Things that the Grants Review Committee will look at include CDBG funding for the domestic violence shelters and also the youth programming. The committee will also look at home funding for the community housing development organizations, and we'll also look at recommendations from the local continuum of care for homeless services proposals as well. So those 3 things.
Can I make a nomination?
Absolutely.
Dalton.
I'll accept.
Very good.
We need to, I guess, vote on that, right? Okay. Motion.
A second.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Congratulations.
Very good. Well, thank you. We're gonna be glad to have you.
Yeah.
I have a form for you to complete. I can stand back here. I'm doing that. Just bring it way there. Okay.
Is that all you got, Mark?
That's all we got.
Okay.
We're all done.
Dalton,
Thank you very much.
Dalton, you get
Appreciate
free
your time.
crackers with that.
Fantastic. I'd love to get it. There's
And
two
we'll,
more.
and we'll have treats at the meeting too, so.
Okay, moving on, our pal Gary Jansen is here to, with Public Works, presenting the next item on the agenda. Oh, are you delegating?
I am. I'm gonna let James take this.
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet.
Hi there, my name is James Wagner. I'm the Public Works, a little bit, caught me off guard here. So I'm the capital improvement engineer for the Public Works Department. I'm gonna be presenting Pawnee Avenue, from 119th to 135th. I have a slideshow behind you, so you guys may need to turn your seats around a little bit. As you said, Gary's here. He's at, the Public Works, or the city engineer for the Public Works Department. And then also Boffman Company here, Tim Azier and Luke Peter are back here, and they may jump in and answer questions if we have questions that I can't answer myself. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started here. Turn this thing back on. All right, so the project location here is, there we go, right here, it's in blue, Pawnee from 119th to 135th. Both Pawnee, both 119th and 135th have been improved from Kellogg down to Pawnee, and also Pawnee over here has been improved as well. Sorry, I have a note here. Moving forward. So part of the issue we have out here is that Pawnee currently has very narrow lanes. It's a 2-lane street with no shoulders, and it drops down into drainage ditches right next to the edge of the road. There's nowhere for cars to pull off the road, or if your tires accidentally leave the road, you don't have a room for recovery and get back on the road. Some of these drainage ditches are very steep, and like I said, once you get off the edge of the road, you don't have a lot of recovery time or none at all to get back and get onto the road. So, what we're looking at is an improved roadway, that mimics what's out there on Pawnee, which is similar to what they have out there, which, I'm kind of butchering this, I apologize. We're looking at, sorry. I have drawn a blank here, I apologize. So part of the reason we're looking at doing the improvements out here is that aside from the fact that the roadway has very steep ditches right next to it, we are seeing a little bit of development and especially through Goddard schools, getting a lot of bus traffic, and that seems to be increasing traffic out there. And we did have an instance where a bus was pulled off on the edge of the road and then was not able to recover down the way. We have a very similar situation on this section of the road, and so that is kind of leading some of what is why we have concerns out on this side. So in August 20 of 2019, the council approved our design agreement with Baughman Company to look at options for ways to improve this roadway, make it safer. Baughman has looked at this and provided an economical solution for us where we have a hybrid type of road as opposed to a standard 3-lane road. Currently, we don't meet warrants for a third lane out there, but what we're looking at is curb and gutter on the north side, and then improved shoulders on the south side, so that in case someone does leave the edge of the road, that you don't have that steep drop off right next to the shoulder. One of the couple other things that we look at on this is that by doing this type of solution, we offset the road a little bit to the north, and then that avoids we avoid our need for right-of-way acquisition, which saves us costs. And then in the future, if we need to, we do have the ability to expand that road and add that third lane to the south end of the road if we need to, and add a curb and gutter and such. So part of the other parts to this project are we do have stormwater included on the north half of the road, and a couple crossings over to the south half to help with drainage. And then we intend to try to be able to add a 10-foot multi-use path on the north half of the road. That does have some issues involved with that. We looked at a couple different solutions for adding that road. Everyone seems to add lots of cost to the project. Mainly the problem you have is floodplain permits where you have the creek crossing. Everybody's probably familiar with that out there. If not, I can show you. I'm going to go back to, I should have had a slide there. Right here, this creek channel is in the floodplain. So part of the issue you have with getting that sidewalk in is the permitting and maybe requirements to add that bike path onto the project. Each one adds cost. The solution we're looking at currently involves expanding the box that the creek goes underneath the road with, and that does start adding cost as soon as you start looking at it. So the proposed path, we do have to permit it, which has its own problems associated with it, and then we also have to have the funding in order to make it work. So those are the problems we have with adding the the 10-foot multi-use path, but our intent is to add one pending the permitting and the funding availability. So some of the existing conditions we talked about, and it's a little bit bright in here, but you can see this is your roadway, and then you have a drop off straight off here. It's not, and as you get closer to the creek channel up here, it gets very steep. So part of the problem you have with that is that, let's say you're coming down the road and and you somehow get off on the side of the road, and your first instinct's gonna be to turn back on the road. Well, if you turn your tire too quickly, the first thing you do is get your tire perpendicular to motion of traffic, and then you increase your chance for roll off or sliding into the ditch. So that's really the main reason you have these problems. And I will note also that we do have patching in the road here. If you look, there's quite a few locations on this road that the road is in poor condition as well, so it does need some updates. Here again, here's the south half of the road. No, I'm sorry, the north half of the road. Again, this is looking towards the bridge up here. You can see this road, the ditch here gets really steep as you approach the creek channel. And one of the other hazards you have out here is if by chance you do pull off some of the obstructions that you can, if you do pull off, you can lend itself right into a power pole or some of the culverts that are out here. So those are the issues you have with also leaving this roadway. Last one, this kind of shows you some of the bar ditches that are out there and how steep they are right off the edge of the road. So our proposed improvements are what I've said was a hybrid solution with new wider 2-lane roads and then an expanded shoulder on the south side. We would have curb and gutter on the north, stormwater here, and of course the 10-foot multi-use path permitting as long as funding allows and we are able to permit it through the floodplain. The improved shoulder should be an 8-foot wide shoulder, and then the existing ditches do remain on the south side. So we don't get rid of the ditches completely, but what we do is we allow for a car to safely exit the roadway should it have to. Here's kind of some of the proposed improvements here. This shows the path on the north side. This is our 10-foot concrete path that we proposed. This is your curb and gutter section right here. As you can see, the road does veer off to the north just a little bit, and that's so that we can add this hashed area is our expanded shoulder. And then it's really difficult to see, but right in through here is the existing ditch, and that remains. So that's your 135th connection right there. And then here is your 119th Street over here, where we connect into the improvements that are already there. And then here's your creek channel where you can see the bike path starts to hug at the back of the walk, and our proposed improvements here include expanding the box here. Like I said, that gets to be a really wide box. We looked at doing a bridge. I think we could probably eat the whole budget up just on doing a bridge. So you kind of see some of the constraints we have with cost associated with that. So depending on how, that's a large bridge, depending on how much it's going to cost to get that widened does possibly limit our ability to do the multi-use path. So what's next for us? Like I said, we have the narrow 2-lane road and no shoulders right now, and our safety for motorists is what's causing concern out there, especially with the Goddard schools and buses. And our ability to expand the road, we do have an ability to expand this roadway to that 3rd lane in the future, should we see the need for it, but currently it does not meet the warrants to expand to the 3rd row. But our next steps then for this would be to get approval for our design concept that we've showed here, then go to council, and then finish our design with Hoffman, and then begin construction in 2020. Council date, should we approve this today, is set for the 10th, December 10th. And right now, our design, our current budget is $300,000. That includes our design and expenses that we might see with temporary easements and such. And then in the 2019 CIP, we have $1.7 million scheduled for this project, and construction starting in 2020 should we approve the work. So right now, I'm asking to recommend the approval of the design concept that we've shown you guys, and ready for any questions you guys might have.
I want to say that this is something that I have fought for 6 years, when I first got on the council and I was on WAMPO, I was trying to find the money for that because they were, increasing or remodifying Pawnee out east to Southeast High School. And I thought it was completely comparative to what we had going out there in Goddard. I've heard about this from a lot of constituents. There's been a lot of talk on next door. There's just several issues here. Those trees there, we go in there and trim them. They're still right there in the right of way. It is a very dangerous area. The traffic counts, Gary knows that I've been hitting up the traffic counts for years trying to measure this. And I will say my daughter is a kindergartner and her bus went off the road and she's a 5th grader now. And I'm still fighting to try to get this taken care of. So in our budget retreat earlier this year, whenever we were going through all the needs of the city, I fought to get this $2 million in here. So ideally, I wanted a 3 or a 4 lane, but I think the 2 lane with the opportunity to maybe increase it to a 3 lane later and have the 10-foot bicycle riding path, I thought was, you know, at least we're getting some momentum and headed in the right direction. So I just want to throw my 2 cents in there.
Thank you, Council. Yes, sir.
Well, I'm gonna throw my 2 cents worth in also. As a young man, I was 19 or 20 years old, I was driving down a road very similar to that. Had no shoulder, and there was some snow on the road and a plow coming at me. And he kind of crowded my lane a little bit. My tires dropped off the edge of the road. When I pulled it back, I found myself in the opposing lane and thought I was a goner. I pulled it back, went off the road on the other side and stopped just inches from a stone wall that was holding back real estate. So had I hit that, it would have been devastating. And I think that every road should have good shoulders because you never know what's going to happen.
So we don't have stone walls, but we have trees and we have culvert pipes and we have a bridge abutment, which can be just as much as a stone wall or even more so. So you face some of those same issues out here, and like you said, there is no room for recovery right now.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
Any other questions, comments from the board?
Where does the county line,
135th.
at 135th?
So my next thing will be working with the county to try to get them to do something similar.
Yeah.
And I've already had talked.
The next session is the county, yes.
Yeah.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
So I know they improved Maple, out there, further, but Pawnee hasn't been improved so far.
The board's all set. Any comments from the public, audience?
Yeah, I
Certainly. Stand, state your name.
My name's Wally Bell. I've lived out there where I could see that intersection for the last 13 years. I've seen a lot of serious accidents out there in that section. I think it's important that they have the 10-foot access along there because when the city permitted the developer to develop the 2nd edition, there's no playground. All the kids in the 2nd division play in the streets. The playground now is over in the 3rd edition across the bridge. Well, there's no way you're gonna send small kids walking across that bridge as it is today. That 10-foot sidewalk there, I think, is a must. Because there's no places for the kids, and I think there's a state code in the development that requires a playground in a development without crossing a major street. And you either have to cross Pawnee, 119th Street, to go over there. On east of 119th Street, those developments have playgrounds for the kids. It should be mandatory in the city that any developer that puts in a development must have a playground. So I think it's real important that we have that 10-foot sidewalk there.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Yep. Sean
Back there.
Benchak. I live right along Pawnee Street between 135th and 119th, and what he was saying about kids or other people, you know, trying to traffic along Pawnee, it's a complete joke. Because the ability for someone to drive along there, get stuck on oncoming traffic, either have to brake to zero, or you have to wait, or push them off the side of the road. And it's ridiculous the amount of people that try to do that, either driving or walking. I will say, as president of HOA down there at Southwest Passage, we've got concerns with the drainage. Every year that it's flooded, the amount of water that stayed in the ditch and then also flowed across Pawnee is a big concern for the homeowners that live on the north side of that development. This last year, we saw a flood where people saw water pooling to about 10 feet from their foundation. And previously that had never happened before, so we've got concerns about that happening there. Speak to the road condition itself. It's been awful. I can't even question the traffic count there because the amount of people that will say that they avoid Pawnee on that stretch because of the number of potholes, the severity. My wife's car, I was driving probably 25 miles an hour, had to hit a pothole, and I scraped her plastic air dam on it. That's how deep the pothole had gone. And it got to that point where I would just drive around and come off 135th into the subdivision because that stretch between Southwest and 119th was that bad. Fortunately, the city came through. Thank you for that. And patched up quite a bit, but each time it's been a Band-Aid, and probably 9 months, probably in the springtime, we're gonna have some pretty severe issues again. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
To his point about the drainage, will this correct or improve the drainage along Pawnee then?
So the plan is to add drainage along the north side of the road, and then there is going to be some improved drainage to the south side, but the ditches still do remain on the south side. So we will have at least one crossing. I think we're still in the preliminary phases. We don't intend to make any drainage worse. The intent would always be to improve drainage, and we do have that in the plan. I don't think that we have a fully developed drainage plan as of yet, as far as like exactly what's gonna happen, but, you know, Luke here, he may have a little bit more to expand on that. I mean, I know we have the one crossing at Southwest Passage that we're looking at adding.
Yeah, so we're running pipe along the north side. It's definitely gonna get way better than it is now. We're gonna fix the grading on the south, so it all drains. So there's no flat areas on that south side. Cause right now at that southwest patch, I know we were talking about, it's really flat. So the water kind of picks up there. But we're gonna get that under pipe and, then push that to the creek.
So I mean, that is the intent, and there will be some improvement, and so, but we're still in preliminary, that we don't have anything pipe sized or anything like that. Gary does have some stuff he would like to address here as well. if he
Did
does.
that answer your question? I had a few more
Yeah,
comments.
I think so. In other words, it's part of the planning. It's not detailed yet, but it's going
Yes.
to improve the drainage is
Yes.
part of the plan in here.
As much as we
well.
possibly can, yes.
Gary, some of that ground next to there that we've been working with the owners, would that help the overall drainage if we can get something accomplished over there?
Not necessarily. In specific areas it might, to the south there, what we're proposing to do here will help, within the 119th Street right-of-way itself, compared to what happens now in the ditches. The north side ditch effectively is gone, for the most part. It's replaced with pipe. With, like Luke said, with the grading that we can do on the south side, we can make the water purposely go to where it needs to go, because right now it just sits. That helps. I just want to make sure everybody understands, especially when we look at things that happened in the last year. We had historic rain events in the last year. And when those things happen, all bets are off. We will make no difference on any of that, unfortunately. As development continues, we have a lot better rules in place than used to be there. And all new development has to ensure that they do not increase the runoff. That still cannot fix age-old issues within a specific drainage basin without looking at big regional plans. So we're trying to get there a little bit at a time. This will help, but it's not gonna, it won't change any big picture issues of everything that comes through that basin in particular, especially on the big rain events. But you will see things better than what they were, so. I had, Vice Mayor, two comments, and James did a good job explaining this. I wanted to reiterate one thing and then mention one thing so everybody knows. Not to belabor this, but the getting across that channel with a sidewalk or some type of bridge extension is starting to look more and more challenging by the day. In fact, that bridge now is not quite what we thought it was on how it's constructed. This section of road was annexed from the county in 2006. Not because the city chose to, but because the county said you've got development by state law. They said you're going to annex it, and I don't mean that as disparaging to the county, but we take whatever they have at that point. I just want to tell you, we still right now have a limited budget. Depending on where we end up, we're going to look at everything that we can. Right now, I don't think it's out of the question that we could end up spending almost as much money on that sidewalk and a way to get across that channel as we are on the road. That doesn't mean it's not important. That doesn't mean that we're not still going to look at doing it, but I just want to tell you that that still is going to be contingent on available budget, and we'll do everything we can to make that work. I'm not sure we gain a lot by putting in just the sidewalk if we can't get across that creek. Also, especially based on the comments we heard about trying to get in and around the development. I'll tell you, we're committed to do everything we can to try to make that work. We've got a good engineers looking at this, but it's going to be a little bit iffy. And the last comment I wanted to tell you was, assuming your recommendation for approval tonight and the council does the same in December, we'll try to get to construction hopefully by next summer. It's going to depend a lot on the floodplain permitting. I think the design can be done. During construction, we'll only be able to carry one lane of traffic in one direction. So, historically, we have looked at traffic coming in towards town because more people work that direction generally than anywhere else. However, in this situation, we'll probably reach out to the Goddard School District first and see what makes the most sense for them for buses and go from there. So, but we can only carry one lane during construction. There's just no other way to do it. And I want to make sure everybody knew that.
I'm sorry, I meant to mention that Goddard, I have talked to Goddard Schools. They are looking into it. They thought carrying traffic into town was still the way to go for them because they have a way to do it, but they were looking into it to verify that, so. Sorry, I meant to add that in my notes, I didn't cover it. Yes, sir.
Is there any consideration to extend Jewel and the third edition over there to the developer? To extend Jewel so there's another exit out of that third edition instead of onto Pawnee?
That is driven entirely by the developer. We don't dictate. Once a neighborhood is platted, it's up to them on that phasing how that's done. The original plat, as it goes through the process with the city and through the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission, when they approve that, they approve a master plan for connectivity to make that happen. We can't dictate that phasing and timing of how that happens. I know the developer out there has plans to try to develop out everything in there within the next 10 years, but I couldn't tell you what order that comes in necessarily, so.
Well, that's my big objective.
So.
We don't direct the developer to do anything. He won't let us have anything to say about it. We haven't had in the 13 years I've lived there, we haven't had a homeowners meeting and voted on anything. He takes our money and spends it however he wants it, and nobody pushes the developer.
So this is the plat around there. It covers, this is being developed right now. There is a street connection up here, and I believe one right here.
I think there's just one.
There's one, there's at least one of them right there.
We still don't have a playground. No, we don't have any place for one.
So, I can't tell you what type of time frame. That is the current plat that we show.
Even if they gravelled it, it would give them another exit out of there.
Well,
I would just tell you again, and I know it's not what you want to hear. The city has no control, except for to approve the plat, which includes required ingress and egress and access points between Pawnee and 135th. Beyond that, we have no control over the timing of that development. It's all paid for by special assessment. We cannot force them to go in any direction. We can't force them, the city has absolutely nothing to do with HOAs and how any of that works. We are providing a service to extend facilities, to build water and sewer extensions and the paving. It gets assessed back to the property owners, and the city can't control any of that beyond that.
Comment in the back, sir? Yes, sir. State your name and address, please.
As long as it's, my name is Bill Wheaton, or I live on the, third edition area. If you cut the traffic down to one lane, all those construction trucks, cement trucks, dump trucks, everything goes up Wheaton. If you cut it down to one lane, then we're gonna do the congestion on the area.
Well, I'd like to say we have a lot of choice in the matter. There's either a choice of shutting the road down or leaving it to one lane. And by our ordinance, we leave it to one lane unless we cannot construct it any other way.
Wheatland's the only way in. I've seen that.
We can
thing
look at,
blocked
we
by
can
the
look at ways
police.
to try to limit that, but we can't force people to not drive down it because it's still a public road, right?
But I will tell you that for our, if you're talking about the contractor that'll build the road and that construction traffic, we can control.
Yes.
That they're not using neighborhood
No, I'm
streets.
talking about the construction, traffic, building of houses.
The development.
Yeah, the development.
And Pawnee, and that's the same deal. I can't, we've had that question numerous times. They've gotta get in and out of there somewhere. We try to work with the Woodbury Builders Association to limit but we are limited on what we can do there when houses are being built within developments. We're gonna have to do this. If we're gonna make these improvements, we've got no choice but to go to one lane. We can't close the road because there's lots of people. Turkey Creek has access to Pawnee only. The people on the south have access to Pawnee only. We've got to keep it open to the one lane. I can tell you, if you are planning, and I appreciate hearing that, we'll look at everything we can. I don't mind talking to, again, the Builders Association again, based on your concern, to talk to them about what people are doing to get in and out of there.
Yeah, that's the main problem. It's one way in, one way out. If you have the construction on Pawnee, one camp for that.
Any other comments from the public?
I got a question. What happens if the budget comes back, it's not 1.7 million for the construction, but it's truly 2.5 because you've got to address the bridge? What happens at that point?
We have to relook at things.
Well, I'll,
Yeah, go ahead.
here's, and this is why I mentioned what I did, and I'll discuss this more with the vice mayor to see if we have other options. As it sits right now, my recommendation is we'll move forward with the road improvements and the sidewalk won't get built right now.
Okay.
Because I don't wanna put the whole project off. What I would hope to do then is either find another funding source to help supplement to get that done, or just look for a way to do it as a separate project. We're gonna do everything we can right now, to try to make this work and get creative, with how to cross that creek, but it costs money. We put, prefabricated pedestrian bridges in a lot of situations like that. They start to get really expensive with that long of a span. So we're gonna have our consultant, give us some, structural experts and look at the bridge and see what we can do to widen the bridge first and foremost. I have no intentions of giving up on the paving project at all, cause I'm confident we can get that done within the budget. That sidewalk is just gonna be, we're not sure yet until we can get a little further along in the design.
Looking for a motion from the board.
Second.
Motion from Don, a second from Beth. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I'd be glad to take up some of your HOA concerns with the Builders Association. I know you have.
I don't have any use for the Builders Association. You know, I wrote an amendment to the Kansas Bill of Rights. I hear this under the table stuff with the Builders foot the bill. To me, that's just dirty politics. You need to develop it.
I'll ask some questions to see how we can move that forward.
Okay, we have no.
Now, this new representative, I told from Clearwater, is gonna do something, I just haven't had time to get with him.
So we have no old business on the agenda, so back to the board. It's, would anybody on the board have any topics they want to bring up for discussion?
Briefly, and, there's a project for Douglas coming up on the county council, and I'd recommend that we approve that and go forward with that. It's a temporary thing to, improve the traffic and, improve the roadways along Douglas, to improve walkability, bikeability, provide better parking, availability, et cetera. I think it would be a good thing for our city, and,
You talking the
I
4-lane
recommend-
to 2-lane thing?
It goes from 5 lanes to 3, and it adds, parallel parking, and it adds bike and scooter lanes, and, it's an area of our city that has a lot of walking traffic. It has a lot of businesses that are accessed by walking and by bus and by bike, et cetera. It would be a good improvement, and it'd be it's a temporary thing, as I understand, it's kind of an experiment, if you will. But I think that it would be worth, investing in, to see how that can expand in our city, and it brings people back to the core of our city, which I think is important.
How far are they gonna do that? It's the proposal. From
Yeah,
how far?
I mean-
Paper today.
How far was you saying?
That's a good question.
You just have to look at
There, I've got
I've
stuff
read
on
about
it,
it, I
but I
just couldn't-
can't,
I couldn't remember
you know,
how
and
far.
I'm not sure. Do you recall, Jeff, how far that goes?
I think it was all the way to,
Glendale.
Well, okay, it says it includes Delano, downtown, Old Town, and the Design District, so it's basically
Wow.
open streets, Wichita.
and you know, I'm trying to bring the paths already from out west downtown.
Yeah, so, it's,
I think we'll get city to city connectivity that's safe.
Yeah, just gonna find a way to cross the ditch.
I'm supposed to have results of that later this month.
Okay, just to hear about that.
And we have $2 million in 2021 and $2 million in 2023 to make those connections happen. But we have to figure out the design on how to get through the ditch.
from Sunset all the way in.
From basically the big ditch, all the way to the ballpark, basically.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. Crossing the big ditch is huge.
Mhm.
Literally huge.
And 235, there's only
Well, the
a
hole
few
is still-
places
The
that.
hole is still there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, you're right.
I hear you're absolutely right though.
I mean, if you're walking or biking, there's like 2 places you can
Right.
get across, and they're both major streets, and so it's very dangerous for people to walk and bike through there.
I mean, for whatever reason, the state wants us to have a tunnel underneath the 235. I mean, if that highway comes down, I don't know what a tunnel's gonna protect you.
Okay.
But anyway, I'm waiting till later this month to see what they come up with. So
Yeah, that tunnel.
we are
A
working.
new tunnel?
Like a big culvert, that once you get over the railroad trestle, you would ride through the culvert underneath the bridge.
Okay.
So I'm anxious to see what this is gonna look like.
Okay.
I'd be concerned about safety.
Yeah.
Be a good place for somebody to lay in wait for you.
Right, yeah. It's a good
Culvert,
point.
and there's an open.
Yeah, it's not bad the way it is, right? It's no culvert there right now, is there?
Right,
It's just,
no.
it's just a gap. Because the
Yeah.
train went through there, right? Just use the existing train right away.
Yeah, I don't know that they'd have to protect that at all, to just put back through there.
Any other
I'll bring
questions?
it to Dan as soon as I have any information.
Jeff, do you want to give a plug to Family Promise that you and Nate are being the auctioneers for?
Officer Sweetall and I'm the MC and auctioneer, and he's gonna help me on, are you guys familiar with the Family Promise when they came in here? Basically helping homeless families, a little bit different. And November the 14th from 7 to 9, we'll be doing that at the boathouse. So it's a very, very worthy cause if anyone's interested. Come in and help participate in that. When they first came here in front of the district advisory board, it was the first time I had heard of them. And I didn't realize a homeless family is so much different than a homeless person, because they're not only, just trying to find a way to fend for themselves, and most of these people are just working poor that ran out of money at the end of the month. And they're not only trying to hide their children from people on the streets and being taken advantage of, they're also trying to hide their children from a SRS and from social services that have taken their kids. So it's a great group, it's a great connectivity and community of a lot of churches that offer shelter and offer ways a lot of it's just trying to get somebody written deposit and a month's worth of money again to get them back on their feet. They don't want to be permanently homeless, so it's a very worthy cause.
Anyone else?
Make sure you get out and vote.
Oh, is that tomorrow?
Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah, make sure you vote.
Very good, okay. Let's see, the next board meeting will be December 2nd, 2019, right here, 6:30 PM at this branch. And would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So